And we're on there. All right, guys, this is episode 38, I think. We got a special guest, Jakob Camacho. For some of our listeners, which is like probably 10 million at this point, they might not be as familiar with Jakob, being that he's a guy coming out of Connecticut. The wrestling world that watches this, of course, they will be very familiar with Jakob. But a quick rundown for Jakob: couple-time New England champ, Super 32 champ, Flow Nationals runner-up, Fargo All-American, Eastern State champ, beat on Busiello, which was fun to watch, and Matt return and break him. That was great. So he did that at Eastern States. Went on to NC State, redshirt last season, 2 seasons ago. This past season, won the ACCs, beating Jack Mueller in the finals, returning NCAA finalist. I think he was top 10 seed going into nationals, who I thought would have competed for a title. We're super excited to see where this goes this season coming. But Jakob, just how we start every interview, how'd you start wrestling?
So I actually grew up in Arizona for 5-6 years. So I was born in Arizona, moved to Connecticut, and I started wrestling to make friends. So I started playing football and soccer right off the bat. And one of my really close friends now, still to this day, his parents suggested, they were like, hey, why don't you go into wrestling? You make some friends. It's fun. Danbury was a big wrestling city at the time, still is, but it's a big wrestling city. And they're like, oh yeah, cool. No, we'll give it a shot. I was terrible. I sucked. I lost a lot. And I hated to lose. And like every time I lost, I'd throw a terrible temper tantrum, and my dad would yell at me because I'm making a fool of myself. But yeah, super competitive. And then I just pretty much just enjoyed it and fell in love with it. And once I hit like 7th grade, I knew this is what I wanted to do until I couldn't do it anymore. Football, unfortunately, genetics were not on my side. I kind of hit 7th grade playing football, and I was like, I wonder when I'm supposed to hit 5'10", 5'11", like the rest of them. Didn't happen. Got my mom's genes, so thanks to her for that one. But it worked out. It worked out all right.
That's awesome. I mean, you know what I love about that story? Oh. Go ahead.
Do you see I changed my heading?
Oh, thank you. You can have it back, brother. Have it back. I'm fine with being an assistant. Okay, you guys all heard it live on our show. Coach Chabellis is now the head coach of Greeley. I have stepped down. Thank you. Coach, but what I found interesting in what Jakob said, first of all, Jakob, you know what's funny? We were talking before this interview thing started, and I was talking to him about how you, Coach Chabellis, didn't know him as well, so you would ask questions as somebody that didn't know him as well. It'd be fun. But that first story said, I never even knew you lived in Arizona. So that's really? Something new already. Didn't even know that. That was pretty cool. But what I loved about what you just said was, I mean, maybe I don't love it for you because it probably wasn't fun as a little kid, but that you weren't uber successful right off the bat. I'll start, and I'm sure Coach DeBells has some follow-ups on this, but obviously you're competitive now, and you were competitive ever since I knew you, and it sounds like you were competitive even back then, but was that what kept you in it? Or like, was there something else when you were young and you were taking some beatings that like kept you so engaged with the sport? Like, what was it?
It was something about the physicality of it. So when I started playing football, one of my favorite things to do was the Oklahoma drill. I absolutely loved it. I just loved hitting people. I don't know what it was about it. I just loved like the actual fight of it. And with wrestling, it was a fight. Like as little as I was, I just remember like I didn't know what I was doing, but I just went out there and I tried not to lose. Like I just did everything I could because it was like it was a mini fight. And ever since then, what I truly enjoy about it is the actual feeling of like just kind of combat almost. That's what kept me in it. Is I always thought it was just fun to go out there, me and someone else, and see who's better. Even as a little kid, that's how I thought. It was like just I want to see who's better. I lost a lot, like I said, but I like the combat of it.
I like that answer. D, what do you think about that? A guy that's as successful as him, and had some bumps in the road early.
Yeah, it's the right attitude. I watched a couple of his matches this afternoon, and just watching him how he wrestled Busiello. I watched the match against Busiello that was, I think, 2015. I don't know what year it was, but I thought it was the one that you won, but you lost by a point.
Yeah.
It must have been your sophomore year.
That was my freshman year when I went 99.
Freshman year, you were in the finals.
Oh,
and you had him on the ropes. He wanted injury time again, and his coaches wouldn't let him have it. And you went after him. And you were in trouble so many times. That kid was so strong. But his shoulders and everything.
Did you watch his second one?
You had a lot of. I didn't get. No, I didn't see it.
That one's great.
I didn't see it.
That's a fun one.
That was a fun one.
That's the one I was looking for, and I thought I was watching it.
Probably can find.
I was like, wait a second. How
Yeah,
did he lose?
I'm like, that was mini me at 99 pounds.
Yeah, he changed.
I was so disappointed.
We'll get into all this eventually, but we'll finish with you. But Jacob's transformation through high school, he was obviously talented. He was, competing as a freshman with these really good guys. But Jacob, as a senior from a freshman, the trajectory was insane. And I think that's something that we should definitely get to. But the work he had to put, it wasn't like it was just a natural thing. The work that kid this kid had to put in to do that was, not easy. But so, Jacob, when did it really start to click? You said seventh grade-ish? Like when was it?
Yeah, seventh grade I started doing pretty well. I just started winning. I mean, seventh grade was also the year that was the first time I ever went to Iowa Style at the time, which is Empire now. But that was the first time I ever went there and met Anthony and John. And they had no idea who I was. I didn't really know who they were. The only reason I really went was because I was going to Pop and Flow. Mm-hmm. That was the year everything clicked. And that was also the year I started going.
Did you dislocate your elbow there?
Yeah, that was the first time we ever met each other. Same thing with John. It was the first time we ever met. I dislocated my elbow there. But yeah, seventh grade was when it started, and then eighth grade I got pretty good, and then freshman year I was all right. Good for Connecticut, but not the best nationally. I didn't really hit a national caliber until my junior year.
I remember.
Wow. Did you wrestle on the varsity level in 7th and 8th grade, or
no,
doesn't do that?
We didn't do that in Connecticut. I just wrestled middle school, so I just did all we did the. I like to call it when I talk about it. We ran the gauntlet in middle school. It was just me, my dad, a couple others, and their dads, and it's just a group. It's my closest group of friends right now, and we would literally just pretty much hop in my friend's RV or hop in a car. Drive 4 hours to Pennsylvania, get matches, go out to eat, come home. And that was what we did almost every weekend. It was fun. It was I got my butt kicked, but I wrestled a lot. I think I almost want to say there was one year I tried to count how many matches I had, and I think I had over 100 matches one year. And wow. It was that was a very, very fun time, I want to say. There's a lot of just making memories, traveling, running the gauntlet. It was fun.
Did you take losses hard back then, or did you just kind of let them roll back? You took them hard.
Oh, yeah, I took them really badly. I was throwing my headgear, crying hysterically. I took everything so personal. I hated to lose. And, anytime anyone brought it up, I was part of me inside would just get mad. And, yeah.
You know what's interesting to me, Coach, and I'm going to ask Jacob about this, but, Danbury reminds me a bit of Fox Lane, but better, where they, all held each other accountable, but they would make fun of each other. They would joke a lot. They had a good time. Like Jacob said, they're, all really good friends. And they're good people, the kids and the parents. The Camachos are great people. The Kovacs, the Jacks, they're all really, really good people. So I like how they built that, atmosphere. This is fun. These are my friends. We're having a fun weekend. I'm hanging out with this guy, whatever. But was there ever a time when, before you hit your real peak in high school, where you kind of had to get maybe pushed a little, or were you kind of always pushing yourself? Or were there days I don't want to go to wrestling practice right now. I have no urge to do this, when you were in middle school or anything like that?
No, actually, I never really cared. I never really thought about a lot of these kids now, they've got these crazy tournaments to go into, a freak show or a Reno or crazy stuff like that, or Tulsa Nationals. That's another big one for middle schoolers. I never really had that. I kind of it was always just fun to me. It was just I never really I was going to wrestling practice, but I was also going I was going to just have fun. I was just a place for me to have fun. I took it serious. I went to practice. I worked hard. I always liked working hard. It was just something my dad instilled in me when I was young, is if you're going to do something, do it right. Don't half-ass it. Don't sell yourself short. That was pretty much something big, as he always told me. If you want something, work hard at it and have fun with it. And I never really thought of it as a rut. I always just thought hey, my friends are going. I'm going to go. I'm going to have fun. I'll wrestle with them. So it was always just a fun thing for me to do. It kept me busy. And I'm a kid that was all over the place. I was doing this, doing that, doing this. I was getting in trouble over here. My parents are yelling at me. My parents are calling my friends' parents. They're where is he? Oh, they went on a bike ride across town. My parents said, what? But yeah, it just kept me busy.
I like it. I like the mindset. I mean, Jacob, and we're going to talk about it too as we go on. Hopefully for the people that are listening, I have strep throat, so if my voice sounds weird, I've been out of commission for 3 days. Yes, I am this tough. It is possible. That's happened. Why are you making that face?
not to toot your own
You're giving me a face like I'm some crazy person. But I do want to talk to Jacob a little bit eventually in this interview about his mindset and the way he looks at things, because I think he looks at things differently maybe than some wrestlers do, especially high school level wrestlers. He obviously has a way more a stronger mindset. I'm sure when you get to the ranks where Jacob is, a lot of people have good mindsets. But let's jump into high school. When you got into high school, you said your freshman year you weren't super successful. But if I'm hearing what Coach Sabella said correctly, you were in the Eastern State Finals your freshman year. I don't remember that.
I made the semis. I took third in Eastern States my freshman year. So I did pretty good, like in the lower weights. But yeah, I was nationally, I was never nationally ranked or anything. I didn't All-American or anything. I didn't place at like nationals or anything. But for Connecticut, I did pretty good. I took second, and I took at States, and I took third New England's. Yeah, it was. I was pretty good in freshman year, but not national caliber yet. And then sophomore year hit. I probably if you'd like, I think a lot of things is like graphs and like math. That's just how like my brain works. But if you were to look at it like a graph, I was going up my freshman year, sophomore year I went a little bit down. Then junior year I went up, and then senior year I went up, and then senior year I went down. There's always peaks and valleys.
Well, senior year you went down.
Did you gain
sick and a lot of things didn't happen for you? What'd you say, D?
Did you gain weight from freshman to sophomore year? Did you go from 99 to 120?
Yeah, I did I went 99 for Eastern States, but for Connecticut I went 106, and then 113, and then 120, and then
26,
32, 26 and 32.
And you're wrestling 26 now, right?
Yeah, I'm wrestling
or 25.
Yeah.
And DeBellis, he's downplaying himself maybe a little bit with his soft. It's not like you went down like this, Jacob. You still took like 5th or 6th at Easterns. As a sophomore at 113, which is a big difference from 99. And
different weight.
Yeah, it's a different weight, and he continued to get better.
Well, 99 was probably 104.
Yeah, they do these crazy like weight allowances, but
always did the big plus.
I was 104 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, and you could and Connecticut, Coach Sabellis, there is no 99, so he had to wrestle 106. So
I got you.
That's something too.
Yeah, I was a little chubby kid at 106.
I was a little chubby.
All throughout high school, actually.
He was a little. I'm telling you, Jacob. Now I see him like working. I saw him at Senior Nationals this past weekend. He's looking like jacked up a little bit. But even when he was a superstar, he was not your typical.
No, people would look at me and probably.
That was like Kevin Jack too.
They all,
I remember watching Kevin Jack.
Kevin was the exact opposite. Kevin was tall and skinny. I was just short and a little bit, not short, but I was kind of like medium size, a little bit of chub.
But either of you were like overly assuming or whatever that word. Like either of you were overly.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching Kevin Jack for the first time in Eastern States.
Yeah, I was living with my mom for 4 years. She cooks phenomenal Mexican food. What do you expect?
His mom and dad are great people, though. They're really nice and good people. But let's talk about high school a little bit. I'm gonna ask you the mindset question now because we'll talk about specifics eventually. But your freshman year you were good. Sophomore year you started. You went up a weight, so it was kind of up and down. But junior year you made that big jump. Do you attribute that more, you think, to? And let me preface this with Jacob was always in practice, always working his butt off. He was always that guy. Do you think it was a mental change though, junior year, or do you think it was, a technical change, or what do you think was the biggest catalyst kind of for you to say, okay, now I have these really good results, but now I'm going to take it to a national level?
Yeah, I think that was definitely mental. It was mental, and then the mental turned into physical. So after my sophomore year, I knew I was like, I want to be the best in the country. Like my sole goal was to win Super 32, to win Flow, to win all these big tournaments. And I remember having a conversation with John. I told him what I wanted to do, and he said, okay, you want to do this, I will hold you to that. And him and Anthony both held me to that. And I just remember that entire like off season, that entire summer, I switched my mindset to pretty much just I want to be the best, and I'm striving every single day to be the best. And because I'm not the best, it pushed me even harder in practice. So like when I was in middle school, it was just, cool. It was fun. I had fun traveling. When I got to my sophomore year going into my junior year, it turned into, okay, yeah, I have fun with it and I love it, but now it's time to take it up a notch and be the best. So with my mentality of I want to be the best no matter what, that forced me to work even harder. And because those two were working hand in hand, my mind and my body, that was what helped me make that jump. And fun fact, my come out for being the best, for starting to become one of the best in the country at high school, was at Journeyman Classic, and Anthony was the one that coached me. And that was a pretty crazy story.
I think I told Coach about that story, but tell it. You
Yeah,
want me to tell it, or do you want to tell it?
You tell it.
I'm going to tell it because you might not compliment yourself as much as I'm going to compliment you on this, because I was telling Coach Sabellis about this earlier, and this is when I knew that Jakob was going to – I always knew he'd be good. He was already good, right? But this is when I knew that he's going to be –
Can I tell the story?
Huh? Don't do that.
Can I tell the story?
Before I fire you.
I know it.
Yeah, I just told you. But, so – actually, you can fire me now. You're the head coach. That changed.
Head coach.
Sorry.
No, I took it off. I'm done.
Oh, okay.
I resigned. I'm like Sasso.
Okay. But so we're at Journeyman Classic, and Jacob's losing the match, wrestling a tough kid. I think it was the first nationally ranked kid you beat, right, Jacob? The kid was tough, obviously, and the power goes out. Now, if anybody's ever been to Journeyman Classic, it's in this big old school arena kind of thing where the ceilings are super high and there's a lot of mats going on in there, and the lights are out. Everybody's freaking out and whatever. And Jakob is so focused, and he comes to me and we start talking. And I'm kind of giving him you could do better, come on, get to your offense, whatever, the regular coach, spiel. And Jakob kind of stops me and tells me what he's doing wrong, what's happening in the match, how he's going to fix it, and what's going to happen in the remainder of the match. And I remember sitting there listening to him speak, and I didn't even care what happened in the rest of that match. Just the confidence that was coming off of him, and the deep thought about wrestling and the positions, not just hey, I need to take him down. Hey, I need to score a point. No, this is how I'm going to take him down. He's doing this, and this is what I'm going to do to make sure that I score. I'm like, man, this kid's going to be something special. And to add to that, he went out there and did exactly what he said he was going to do, and then he won the match. And I think, Jakob, you might have to get in on this because my memory's a little shot, but if I remember correctly, you were down by 6 or 7 with a period.
Yeah, I was down. I think it was 7-5, or no, not 7-5. I think it was 7-2 or 7-1. I think I had to get an escape, a takedown, cut him, and then get some kind of move. And I remember, I told you, I was he's going to a whizzer, and I'm in a seatbelt. I'm going to pull him, and I'm pretty much just going to cement drop him because he's baiting hard. And I did it, and it was pretty cool.
I mean, dude, think about that, right? Think about calling. That's almost
wrestling IQ.
Yeah, wrestling IQ, but that's almost like Babe Ruth when he pointed. And Jakob, you're the man. I think you're gonna be an NCAA champ. I'm not comparing you to Babe Ruth yet, though. Soon.
No, not yet.
But that's Babe Ruth.
I got a jersey if that counts.
What's that? You got his jersey?
I've got his jersey if that counts.
Then maybe I should. But that's when Babe Ruth kind of pointed off his home run. He's he called the shot. To be able to call your shot when you're wrestling somebody at maybe a low caliber, okay. But to call your shot at a nationally ranked guy that's beating you and his confidence is going in the right direction, and you're able to hold that confidence and then still call your shot, that's pretty impressive, and I think that's more of Jakob's mentality than his skill, So that was fun.
When I was
Go ahead, Coach, go.
When I was watching Jakob wrestle, I just noticed that he never really got nervous. He just kept on going and wrestling. He'd be in a bad position. He'd wiggle his way out, and his shoulders would be like this. And, he just stays calm throughout everything. And I think that's super important for young wrestlers to realize that, just kind of let it flow, let it go, and look for your opportunities. And the way that your IQ is in wrestling, it's unbelievable. Some of the things that I couldn't even see coming, and all of a sudden you're on top, or you're doing, you're sneaking out. You got a seatbelt, and you're sneaking out the other way, and it was just amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's fun.
A lot of things I would say too,
and it shows. It shows that you're having fun.
Yeah, I think I've said this to you before too about Jakob, but I definitely said one part of this to you today, that Jakob made me a better coach. But there's something about guys that have been super super coming out of the club, the Jacobs and RJ, AJ now, and some other guys in the past, is Jakob was able to, and he still does. I talked to him on the phone yesterday. Just by talking to him, I could tell that his mind is still there, but probably even at a higher level now. But he would always break things down, right? Always. And he did that in that match at Journeyman, but he would do it at practice where it was never disrespectful, but I would show a move, I would show a situation, we would maybe be sparring through a situation, whatever it may have been. And Jacob would call me over and he's like, how if I do it like this? How does this feel? And I would say, oh, that feels really good. Or the opposite would happen. I'd say, I don't know. I feel like I could defend that. And then he would like change it up, like right on the spot. Like, how if I go this way now? And like he thought deeply about what he was doing. And I think being able to have that kind of mindset, especially at a young age, is super beneficial to your wrestling. And I think that's why AJ, RJ, those guys are very similar to that, where they thought about it. And I think the coaching wrestling, relationship, the coach has to be okay with a kid being like that, because he never came off disrespectful to me. But some coaches are like, no, I said do it this way. That's the only way you can do it. When realistically, I think Jacob and me would go over some things. He would do something and I would start showing that for 2 weeks at practice. You know what I mean? Because it was so good and effective. What are you saying, D? I see you in there.
I think it depends on the kid too. I think it depends on the kid.
Well,
if Jacob says it, you'd say, well, I could see this kid he's a student of the game. Where some kids will be like, that's not how you hit it. And you're like,
There's a difference there, right? But if a kid came on the team, like for example, Josh Hammond's a very respectful kid, but first year wrestler, right? If he said something to me, you never know. Sometimes you could feel something that might make sense. But if you come with like a little condescendingness of it, like it's like that's a little different, right? Like that's like, okay, dude, you're 0-20, and that's not Josh Hammond's, but you're 0-20 and you're telling me how to do a move, like you could take that somewhere else. But Jacob, so what made you kind of go ahead, D.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, what kind of made you think like that? What kind of made you think like that, Jacob, with the thinking deeply into the moves and things of that nature?
I don't know. I guess I just always tried to figure out what worked for me. I just kind of I would feel when something wouldn't feel right to me, and like I really would try. I still do it now to this day. Like I will like if say Adam or Timmy or Donnie show something, I will try it exactly the way they do it, and then kind of feel like there's a certain part of me that doesn't move like that. Like there's like whether maybe I'm just like, for example, Adam is a super strong person. I'm strong, but I'm more wrestling strong. So like when he does something a little more kind of like plowing through, I have to find my way where it's like, okay, I need to find some a little more fast twitch. I need to find somewhere I can get where I'm a little more comfortable. I guess I always just I was gifted with just kind of just knowing my body and kind of like, I don't feel strong here. Maybe if I switch this up. And I felt super comfortable asking you like for help. Cause like there were certain things where like, maybe this works, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to get better at this. I think that was what also like helped is like the coach and athlete relationship. It was always like reciprocal. It was like, we always bettered each other. And I think that was one thing that I really took away and still do to this day is that at that coach athlete trust and relationship where you're actually working through things deeply and thoughtfully and very, very mindful of the positions and how everything changes with a split with like an inch. I think that's just something I always picked up was I just knew my body and I learned how to use it. I think that's how I started thinking mindfully. And then after a while, it kind of, you actually kind of forget these things. Like I just, like there have been time, like this year I had a couple ups and downs, but we'll get to that. But there's a lot of stuff where I just remember I forgot like why I do this so mindfully. Like, and it's very hard. Like a lot of the stuff that you don't even realize, like it takes you until you become this elite athlete to actually understand why you're doing certain things. And I think that's like the really cool part of it is once you hit the higher level, everybody's a good wrestler. Everybody's a good athlete. Everybody's strong. Everybody's tough. It comes down to that 1%. And I think that's your mentality. Like mentality is 90% of wrestling, but the top 1%, their mentality is better than everybody else.
I mean, I had a lot of fun, D. When, I kind of miss that at the club now, and we're still good. We have PJ's a superstar, right? And Chris Perry is doing very well. He's one of our, PJ's a baby still, though. He's a great wrestler, but he's an 8th grader, he's going to keep developing. By the time he's a senior, who the heck knows? Like that kid's going to be, a wizard. But, Chris has a similar attribute as these guys. He's one of the old school guys that's been there for a while. But I miss the guys like Jacob and AJ and RJ because of how Jacob was. Like I loved being able to bounce it off with somebody where I knew that they were going to give me a good response and we were going to get better together, like he said. And I also like the atmosphere that we have at the club where, we had fun. Right. We would go hard. Like Jacob knew, like when it's time to, lay the hammer down, it was time to lay the hammer down. But he was able to separate, he knew when to turn the switch on, because it was like, you know, we're having fun, we could talk, but we're wrestling, we're getting better, but now we're going into deep waters now, and that's what we're doing, and there's nothing that's going to stop me. Do you think, Jacob, that's your own mentality, that you were able to kind of keep the two separate a little bit? Like, look, we're at practice, we're learning wrestling, we're having fun, but now I need to kind of like say, hey, like, it's time to really get the work in. How did you handle those type of situations?
I just kind of, a lot of it I actually learned from you guys. Like, I learned, like, I can tell from, like, it leads to this day, like, I can tell from, like, certain, I guess, vibes, if you want to call them, or I can feel, like, the energy almost. And it's very, very obvious, I think, for most of the time. Like, if your coach is more serious and he's kind of like the eye, he's giving you like the eyes, or he tells you maybe stop talking. There's several hints. It's kind of like, okay, time to get serious. And I think just from a young age, like, I guess I think I can thank my dad, honestly. I mean, there have been times where, like, I have gotten out of line, obviously, and he's put me back in line. And he definitely did a very good job of being able to, when your coach is becoming serious, you need to listen. He's your coach, and when he's serious, you need to be serious. And when he's like joking and having fun, it's okay to joke and have fun a little bit. And then when it becomes super serious, like when you're really getting ready to go live, like say we're doing a 20-minute go, and it's like you feel the energy shift and you can hear people getting serious, and it's like, okay, now it's really time to go. I think just leading up to that, all throughout high school and through now and all the time, is like, I know when to joke. Like, even in the college room, I know when it's time to joke. I know when it's time to be serious. Jokes get thrown around all the time. It's just lightening the mood. It's fun. It's normal. But at the same time, when it's time to get serious, it's time to get serious. Like, there's separating the two. And I think I just learned that from growing up with my parents and growing up with my coaches. I just listened to them, and that's how I kind of figured it out. I was like, there's a time to joke, there's time not to joke, and you can kind of like figure out the two just off of hints and stuff.
Jacob, you said something about like how you're a student of the game and you like to learn about things and break things down. Now, I noticed that when I go to Empire, there's a lot of the students or the athletes are coaching the other kids that aren't quite near where you're at, obviously. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that was kind of part of the culture at Empire as well? And I can go for Anthony or.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's a big, huge thing was always just giving back. I mean, that's one part of it. It's like, I remember I would work with John and Anthony, and they would show me something and I would show them something, show other, like the little kids something. I mean, it was always kind of something where it was like, you give back. So I think that's one part of it, is that's just a principle, is giving back. It's the right thing to do. And on
but do you feel like it helped your wrestling?
Yes. And on the other side of that was, when you coach something and you talk to somebody through a position, you become more conscious in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So John and Anthony would have me coach to give back, yes, but more so to become a better wrestler myself, because I have to talk through certain positions where maybe I might not have even been aware that I was doing. And maybe like my reps were inconsistent because I wasn't actually aware of that. Maybe my hips weren't in on this, and one rep would be good, one rep wouldn't, and I wouldn't know the difference. But talking through it, I do know the difference now. And I also think that's why when a lot of these like athletes, they become coaches, and all of a sudden they come out of retirement, they're better than they were when they were competing, is because when you look at something from a third perspective, you're able to see it much more clearly. It's the reason why when you're coaching when you're watching a match, you can see like, oh, he should have took a shot there. But when you're actually in it first person, you don't feel it because you haven't really gone through it from a third perspective.
See, what strikes me is that you have that knowledge now. It took me to coach
to realize.
I never really broke down what I was doing when I wrestled in college.
Same with me.
You know, I never got to the level of Jacob, obviously, but I think some of that was that we did a couple clinics when we went home, but it wasn't where you go into like working with Anthony as a coach and coaching for the last 20 years. Your knowledge is just that much better.
Yeah, I think they're definitely a thank, because they told me it would make me better. And I always I believed everything they said. Like, if Anthony told me to do this, I was not going to question it. I was going to do it. If John told me to do this, I wasn't going to question it. I was going to do it because they were my coaches. And I knew that like from our relationship that they want me to succeed as much as I want to succeed. So I just trusted them with everything. When they told me to coach, I was like, okay, I'll show them that. No problem. Of course, we butt heads. I mean, everybody does. But I think for the most part, when it came to
Not with me that much. Let's not get crazy.
Not with
No,
me.
no, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah,
More so John. But
yeah. I was gonna say I wouldn't follow everything.
That's what happens when you're the boss. John's the boss. I'm just
Yeah.
the fun assistant coach.
And yeah, so I always listen to them. So they told me to coach, I coached, and they told me it would get me better, and I believed them, and they told me why. I was like, okay, cool. Because I always I'm a big guy. Sometimes I ask why. How does it make me better? Because I just truly want to understand, so that like when I'm doing it, I'm very conscious in what I'm doing. Because I really want to be the best in this game of wrestling, and it is a game because it's fun. I mean, it is a lifestyle. Don't get me wrong, but it is a game because it's fun, and I want to be the best. So I just listened to them. I just kind of said, okay, I'll do it. And then till now, I understand it. And so I have to coach myself now. So when I'm working technique, it's actually a lot slower than I was working technique in high school because I'm working through it, coaching myself in these certain positions so that I get everything right. And then I'm like, okay, I can pick up the pace now. Now I can pick it up. Now I can pick it up. Now I can pick it up. And next thing you know, in 20 minutes, I can almost do it at full speed. So it's kind of like a building thing.
Do you know what I find interesting, Jacob, and you'll probably agree with this, and Coach, you probably will too, is I think you need to build a basic framework for wrestling with like basic drills. But once you're at a certain level, when you're good, like when you're exceptionally good, Division I wrestler, Jacob in high school, these things, and now Jacob's obviously better than he was in high school because he's just progressing. But I feel like sparring and playing through positions, even if it's at a slower pace, is going to teach you how to wrestle maybe better than, hey, let's just hit 50 high crotches until we're blue in the face. Because I'm hitting high crotch and finish up to a double, but we got to get used to when the guy sprawls and I turn into an Iranian or whatever it may be, right? Like, and I think kind of sparring these positions, but you need a partner that has a high wrestling IQ, and you need to have a high wrestling IQ to make that, doable. So it's a little challenging maybe in your typical high school wrestling room, but an elite club, a college, obviously that's where you're going to see those types of things, But one thing I want to ask you, Jacob, and we're going to get a little bit into high school and more into college, but before I go any further, I always think about this. This is how my mind goes all the time. And when you were talking about being a coach and then that makes you a better wrestler kind of thing, I do believe me as a 26, 27-year-old would beat my college self. Not me now, 33, it's a little different, but my wrestling IQ is higher and all of those things. But at the end of the day, those lessons I've learned through coaching, through wrestling, I think they serve me a lot outside of the sport, right? And I think listening to your mindset and the way you think, I feel like you're going to approach your livelihood with the same vigor, and I think you're going to approach, maybe if you decide to have kids and a family, I think you're going to approach that with the same intensity and thought process. Do you think that wrestling as a sport is almost more I don't want to knock other sports, but almost more beneficial than other sports in the sense that you could so relate to it with real life?
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, wrestling is. I just think there's nothing like it. I mean, one, you're going to get put in so many different scenarios. Like, it's insane. Like, stuff's going to get thrown at you left and right, and you're not going to know how to take it. And not to mention, it's just you out there. And sometimes in life, it is just you. Like, when bad stuff happens to only you, you are the one that are going to have to battle the demons. And I think that wrestling is something that it taught me a ton of life lessons. Just lifestyle. Like I said, like it is a game, it is fun, but at the end of the day, it is a lifestyle. And when you are striving to be the best in something, there's no substitute for the work ethic and putting the time in. Because I do think that I think in a lot of sports you can get away with being athletic. You really can be. But when you get to that level, that point in wrestling, athletic doesn't really do much for you. I mean, it can, but if you know how to use yourself and you know yourself very, very well, you can be successful. Like there's a lot of people like that aren't that athletic. Like you could have some people do a vertical and this guy could probably jump 2 inches off the ground, but he'll tech you. So I think it's very beneficial because it teaches you how to be successful in your own body. And I think that says a lot. I mean, when you approach life with the same attitude I think it's super beneficial. It's something that I still take one thing away every single day I wrestle. It's a constant process. And I think that's what life is. It's a journey. And I think that obviously we're going to have goals that like my goal is a national champ. My goal is a world champ. My goal would be Olympic champ. But at the same time, it's what am I doing every day to get there? And it's the same thing with life is if I want to make six figures, there's something I have to do every single day to make six figures. there's stuff I have to do that I'm not going to want to do. Like sometimes I don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. to go work out. I don't want to do a heart rate workout where afterwards I'm going to feel like I'm going to die, but I have to. Like there's just like I have a goal and now I need to pursue it. So I think that it teaches a lot of lessons. Like I could go on all day about it, but I think the big thing it teaches is knowing yourself.
Kid's amazing.
Learning.
It's awesome, right? But Coach, before you jump in,
take off the mask. I think he's like an old man, like sitting on this
very,
thing,
very
like
wise.
telling stories.
What we have to do.
He's 20 years old.
I love AJ and RJ. They're great, and they have great mentalities for young guys. But we might have to interview like a Grant Cuomo or something after this because we can't go from Camacho to RJ's silly self. Like, it's just,
Grant is Ivy League. He's probably got some.
We might have to do Grant next or Yusuf or something and change it up a little bit. But
I actually saw Yusuf this week, and I got to spend some time with him.
Yusuf's the man. He's going to get interviewed on this thing as well. But one more thing on that, and Jacob, that was such a good answer, and I knew you would give an answer like that, so that's kind of why I went that way with it. But I know you want to be an NCAA champ, and I believe you're going to be an NCAA champ just because of how you've been for your career and the way you think and the way you work and all of that stuff. But, it's like that saying, like, the journey is more important than the destination kind of thing. And I feel like you have the right mindset where you're striving for the best and hopefully you achieve the best. And I think you're very capable of achieving the best. I feel like if you really appreciate the journey that's getting you there, it'll be a lot easier to get up at 6 a.m. and go to that workout and do those things. And I think you really think like that. And I would love for, younger guys that are kind of coming up and they want to be good to realize that if they want to be super successful, you got to find a way to love it, right? You have to find a way. And it's not going to always be easy to love, but you have to find a way to love it. And the last thing I'm going to say about that whole thing you said there is, you got to do these things in life. But I also feel like, that old Dan Gable saying, right? Like once you wrestled, everything in life's easy. I like what Tom Branch changed it because, Tom Ryan losing his 3-year-old son or his 4-year-old son, once you wrestle in life, everything in life is easier, right? Yeah. You're still going to have these battles, but, bad things happen and we're going to have to get through them. But hopefully the sport could equip you with tools that, could help you maybe get past that and go further. And I think you'll be perfectly fine with your life just because of your mindset. And I'm very excited to see where you'll be after wrestling's over. But now we're still in wrestling. So, Coach, do you have anything with that last thing he said before I jump to something different?
I think he nailed it.
It was awesome, right?
Yeah. I think that one more. I think the best thing about it is you can learn this. Like you, I have to meet. I got away from it a little bit. Like you start focusing on winning because that's just what you want to do. And as a competitive person, you start focusing on that. But I actually I do meet with a sports psychologist. I do read books. Like I have to you have to reteach yourself every now and then because you do forget about it because it's easy. It's a hard thing to learn. And I read a book, Chop Wood, Carry Water, and that's a very, very good book. And if you guys, it's short. It's like 3-hour audiobook. So
I'm into that. Audiobooks are at my alley.
Yeah, Donnie actually.
Audiobook. Oh yeah, I can read that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I enjoy it. But yeah, you can learn this stuff. And like I meet with a sports psychologist, and that's the big thing is like mentality part of it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love the mindset stuff. That to me, that's my favorite thing. But I love this. I love this.
That's the missing element.
It's for a lot of people.
I think that's one of the missing elements in high school.
Exactly.
We don't have enough time. But I mean, you do it certainly in practice. At the end of every practice, you're doing mindset stuff.
I've said it before, and I'm not nearly comparing myself to these people, but you could be John Smith, Dan Gable, it doesn't matter. If you give somebody 3 months to try to mold somebody's mentality, that's not enough time. Like you need more time to really, it's a process. Yeah, it's a process. And especially if you're more
it takes time to bake.
Yeah, but you're more in, like Jacob was very receptive to the process, so the speed went a little quicker, right? Some other people kind of got to bang them over the head with it until they figure it out. And I've seen that too, and people be successful with that. But to change the subject a little bit.
The culture around you. It's the culture around you too. So Danbury had a good culture around it. Yeah. All the kids had the similar mindset. NC State, similar mindset. Fox Lane, similar mindset. I think we developed a similar mindset at Horace Greeley. Mm-hmm. But you could have one person with a dissenting voice in the room that could spread and it could ruin all the good things that are happening sometimes. So you got to watch out.
But to play devil's advocate, right? To play devil's advocate a little bit, I 100% agree with you. But if Jacob's in that college room and that voice starts to creep in with some people, you have to be able to have a strong enough mind to say, hey, that's what those guys are doing. This is what I'm doing. But to change the subject, it's a little fun because you mentioned it pre-interview. Tell me right now, who has the best foot sweep in America at the moment? In America, at the moment. I'll tell the story. So Jacob was.
Oh man, I have to give that to Anthony. He put me out.
No. Well,
I also put him out too. I may have went down, but I went down with a knee to the throat.
yeah, so I still tell this story. I actually forgot about it. I should have been thinking about it because it's hysterical. But I tell this story when I show this move all the time, from the overtie to the foot sweep. I either say that story, or I ate AJ with it once too. He got crushed with it. And Jacob Ferreira hit him like 20 times with it, and he claims I never got him with it. But I got him with it like 20 times. But Jacob Camacho is the one that made me pay for it the most. And this is 100% true. We were wrestling around at practice, and Jacob was small. What, like 100? How much did you walk around at the time?
Probably 130 maybe.
Yeah, I was like a big man trying to bully him. Like, I'm just being a jerk. And like, we're wrestling around, and Jacob used to get me tired even then. Now I wouldn't even mess with him. But even then he was getting me tired, and we were moving around. I hit him with a nice foot sweep. But Jacob like balled up, I guess. His knees, like he hit his back, but his knees like went in. I landed throat first right onto his knee. I swear to you, D, I couldn't talk for 3 days. Like, words would not come out of my mouth. I was actually kind of scared that like I would never talk again. Like,
He came into practice the next day, and he was like talking like he lost his voice. And I remember being like, "Man, what's wrong?" And he's just like, "Don't even talk to me right now."
But that's what I'm talking about. Like, that sucked for my throat, but it was fun. It's a funny story. We had a good time. Like, wrestling, it's the best. But one more thing with high school. Journeyman was your coming out party on the national scene. You went on to Super 32 that year and you placed. Then you went over to Fargo that summer, you placed. It kind of starts snowballing, right? And then that senior year fall is when you won Super 32. How did that feel for you? And I know that wasn't your end goal, but to finally get into that big high school tournament, national level tournament, a lot of people say Super 32 is the toughest high school tournament in the country. And to win that, and I see pictures of like you and John hugging, and all this stuff, and I could feel the emotion even looking at the pictures. Like, so how for you, what did that mean to you? And I know it's not the end of the road, but what did that mean to you in that moment?
Yeah, at that time period, that was just 4 or 5 years of culmination to my last like national like hardest tournament of like in the country. That was like a culminating factor, and like it was also more emotional because I never really talked about this, but I'll just say it. I had a torn meniscus that entire week of training, and like I couldn't bend my knee, I couldn't straighten it, I couldn't shoot. And I remember like John told me, like Johnny's like, "Listen, you're committed to NC State. You just need to go out there and compete. And I promise you, if you do the very, very basic things, you will win, because your basics are better than everybody else's funk and BS, and your fundamentals are going to win you a national championship." And I believed him. I was like, okay, let's do it. And for 2 weeks of training on that, I worked on reattacks, I worked on snapping, I worked on very, very basic shots. And when I had to shoot during the tournament, I shot. It hurt. But that was also really, it made it like a sweeter thing, is because like competing on that kind of sucked. Like, it wasn't a torn ACL or anything, but a torn meniscus does hurt. It's a pain. And I couldn't really walk very well. I was living on ibuprofen, but it was definitely just nice to like everything was awesome. Like, it was just, everything worked out perfectly. I listened to the game plan. I stuck to the game plan. I was just tough. Like, I just toughed it out. I got that. I guess I could say I got that part from Anthony, but I toughed it out. It was so that was probably what made it so sweet. It was just 4 or 5 years of culmination to that moment of wrestling in front of a few hundred people at the biggest tournament in the country.
It was awesome. D, as a coach, and you felt this a billion times as well, like, but when somebody put a lot into something, right? And you feel almost that joy when they win, but you feel that heartbreak when they lose, because the type of work they put in. Khalid and John were out there with him at Super 32, so I was covering practice, and I normally, married and I have the baby and I have other jobs, I have things going on. I wouldn't really travel to those really far tournaments. But I would always watch every match. Like, there was no chance I wasn't going to watch Jacob wrestle. But I was at practice, and I remember like yesterday watching him and like the roller coasters, and after saying a sentence, like I remember like yesterday, actually in the semis you were losing, correct? Mm-hmm. Against a kid from
New Hampshire,
and you scored 2 takedowns late.
No, just one. I just scored one in last like 20 seconds.
I remember literally like holding one of the dads was next to me and we were watching. I was like holding his like shoulder throat area, like just like squeezing every time like Jacob would like do something. But similar to what I said to Grippy, in that situation, I was still confident he was going to get that takedown. You know, I just felt it. And then he went on to wrestle Bo Bartlett, I believe, in the finals, right?
Yeah.
Who's a superstar wrestler. He's at Penn State now, and beat him outright with the torn meniscus. It's just, you know, I knew at Journeyman, I knew other times that he was going to be this uber successful guy, but the way he went through Super 32 was like, this guy might be, you know, really, really the real deal. And as he showed this season, he is. So, Jacob, now let's jump into college. This year didn't start the way you probably wanted it to start. I actually was moving into my house and Khalid was helping me. And it shows how closer we are. You know, AJ and RJ were here. Jacob was just at NC State at the time, so would have had his butt over here too. But we were like moving boxes, whatever. Me and Khalid, it was just us two at the moment. And he's like, dude, NC State's wrestling Old Dominion. So I'm like, oh, let's watch. So Jacob was wrestling, Camacho was wrestling that match, and Jair Ferreira was wrestling in that match as well. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. So we get, you know, a Greeley Empire alum and an Empire alum. Let's watch these matches. And the kid Jacob wrestled, Camacho was very good, but not as good as Jacob, in my opinion, at all. And Jacob didn't wrestle his best. And I was like, oh man, like what is going on? Like I was hoping Jacob would be this All-American caliber guy. I'm not seeing it right now. Is he okay? Like what's going on in his mind? Like what's happening? I heard, and you tell me if this is correct or not, that you were having a little trouble with the weight and you were overthinking it. You weren't really maybe having trouble with it. You were overthinking it. How did you go from that to the guy that beat Mueller at the ACC, NCAA finalist at the ACC finals? Like what happened in there?
That was a total mental switch. I mean, the wrestling is there. Like, I've had a couple of conversations with Pat that I always remember. And that entire half of the year, I mean, like even before that, I was kind of like, I wasn't myself. Like I was kind of like, I wasn't uncoachable, but I was not the most coachable kid. Like I was kind of like, I wasn't listening. I kind of was getting involved in stuff I shouldn't have gotten involved in, like politics and stuff like that. And like, I don't want to listen to that, blah, blah, blah. And then I was fighting it. I was fighting the process. And when you do that, there is absolutely nothing good that can possibly come out of it. I fought it. I dogged sprints. I dogged laps on the track. I dogged some conditioning. I just kind of was like, you know what? I'm a good wrestler. I'm gonna be good. Like cause you know, I deserve it, but you don't deserve anything in the sport. You don't deserve anything in life. You have to earn it. And after you earn it, that's when you deserve it. Deserving is something that happens after you earned it. And I fought it, and then that match, like I was having trouble with my weight. I wouldn't listen to anybody. Like I thought going vegan would help. Didn't help. It was terrible. I like meat too much. But I thought that would help. It didn't help. And like I'm trying shortcuts. I'm trying to like there's a path that you need to take, and you don't know what's on the path, and it's unknown because it's like the process is scary. It's a scary journey. And there's another path where there's right in the beginning there's a bunch of roses. It's like it looks beautiful. It's awesome. But after that it drops off. And you don't know that because you're not thinking down the road. You're thinking short term. So I was thinking short term and trying to take shortcuts, and it didn't work. And time after time, it wasn't working. I go to the Cliff Keen in Vegas. I don't place. I have not placed that tournament since my freshman year in high school. That hurt big time. And I remember Pat telling me, "Listen, it's your attitude." And I had a conversation with him. I had a conversation with Adam. It's your mindset. And I'm over here saying, okay, yeah, it's my mindset, but I'm not really doing anything consciously to change it. I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, sure. It's my mindset. I believe you, but am I going to do anything about it? No, I didn't do anything about it. And then scuffle comes, and that's where I hit rock bottom. Is I lose a match I absolutely shouldn't have lost. Kudos to the kid. I'll give credit where credit's due. He caught me, but I didn't place there. That's and that previous year I took third, and it wasn't. I don't think it was as tough of a bracket as my redshirt year. And I remember that was where I really hit rock bottom. And that was when I was like, something needs to change. I need to figure it out. So I started meeting with a sports psychologist, kind of told her my situation. And I was like, I'm done taking shortcuts. There's a way to get there, and I'm going to take that way to get there. So I stopped listening to the noise in my head, and I started listening to my coaches, and I started trusting what they were telling me to do. Crazy it sounds, yeah, I started eating meat again, but it was little changes like that where I'm, okay, there's certain things I need to do. I talked to John and Anthony a lot during this, and I took the road where I know there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, but I don't know what's going to come in between. Like there's going to be hard times, and my diet was right. I was actually running. I was cardio. I was building my legs, building my conditioning. Every rep I was taking was meaningful. I wasn't cutting corners. I was getting back to what got me good, and that was being the hardest worker in the room and being the toughest kid in the room. That was what really got me to where I was at first. And there's a recipe for success, and you always have it. It's just you forget along the way. So that's why, I think the mentality part is so important. And that was all it was. I fixed my mentality, and it took 4 months. It took 4 months to even just switch it, not to make it not to even make it perfect at all by any means, but to switch it. And then I started seeing the changes. I was like, okay, I just beat the UNC kid by a good bit. I just dominated. I just teched the kid from Drexel. This is getting fun. Okay. I just beat the number 15 kid in the country. This is getting fun, and I'm trusting in it. I'm having fun with it, and I'm not worried about whether I win or lose. I'm just worried about wrestling hard for 7 minutes and being able to look myself in the mirror at the end of when I go to sleep and saying I'm proud of it. I'm proud of what I did. And of course I want to win going into ACCs. I was just kind of like, you know what, 7 minutes, go out there, wrestle as hard as I can, and whatever happens, happens. I know when I perform and I utilize my recipe for success is what I like to call it, I will be victorious. I know that I have faith. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to compete hard for 7 minutes. So that was really the big change. It was mentality wise. I mean, it was nothing physical. When my mind and my body were working together, like I said earlier, it was something special, and it's continuing to build on that and trust it.
That's awesome. Another very good answer. Jay, what I took out of that whole sequence there, and again, knowing you as well as I do, I'm not surprised by it because I know you, but like reaching out, maybe the sports psychiatrist or whatever it may have been, psychologist or whatever it may have been, a lot of people, I think when they get to a high level of something, they have a hard time asking for help, right? Or figuring out like, hey, what's wrong with it? So I think that really shows, one, your maturity, and two, your will to get better. Because like it wasn't working, and you could have been like, you could have blamed the world. You could have said, this is happening. Oh, well, this weight cut's too hard, when realistically you're definitely in striking distance for that weight class, I would believe. All these things, you could have played the blame game. A lot of people love to play the blame game, and in life they love to play the blame game. I think you taking control of your destiny like that is super impressive and inspiring, and it should inspire hopefully your teammates, and it should inspire some of these high school guys that are watching this. You have control. It may not be easy, but you're in control. And I really appreciate that story, and I think that's really cool. D, what'd you think about that?
I'm inspired.
I love that about you. I love how you're inspired and I'm inspired. Before we go to the next story, I have a question for you, Jacob. 4-minute plank. That's not easy, correct?
No, it's not.
Oh, come on. It's a piece of cake. I
told DeBellis today that I've been doing 4-minute planks every day to get myself back in shape. He goes, 4 minutes? Like he like
wait, are you talking?
Me. Like I was like some kind of like wuss.
4 minutes? What are you? 4 minutes? I'm doing 10.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what's up, Dave?
Bellis is clocking in at 15s.
Oh my God. So a couple more questions, Jacob, then I'll let you go because I don't want to keep it too long. Because he actually had a podcast earlier with like the NCC.
Really?
Yeah. This is his second.
Yeah, it was like an ACC podcast with some guy.
Yeah, this one's gonna get more views.
Was it two guys? Because I watched that interview you did after the ACC finals.
No, this was, I don't know, I think it's like Matt Geeks or something. I think it's no, but they want to do a podcast. I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Did you ever go to that restaurant they were talking about?
No, never did.
What restaurant?
I don't blame you. One question I have, can I
yeah, jump in. I'm sorry. I was just keeping moving. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. You guys, you win the ACCs. You're MOW of the ACC, and then they canceled the national tournament.
Oh yeah, that was rough. That was a rough few days. I mean, I won't get too into it, but the day we found out was a Wednesday. We had our individuals, so we just got our workout in, some technique stuff, technical things, fixing a couple things, sharpening the sword for nationals next weekend. And that was actually a game day as well. We kind of go out there, play kickball, play some football, throw around the football, soccer, just having fun, being kids for one day out of the season where we don't have to worry about anything. And that's where we found out is like Pac-12 canceled, MAC canceled, Big Ten's out, ACC's out. And we were like, wow, this is brutal. So I remember, I mean, I broke down, I cried. A bunch of guys on the team were crying, and like AD had a meeting with us and told us like it's happening to everybody. So that was like a heartbreaking feeling, but it is what it is. I mean, looking back on it now, I mean, it's like it's a curveball life throws at you. You don't know what life's going to throw at you, and it's just chucking along, chop wood, carry water, and keep going.
Chop wood and carry water. I got to read it.
Do you know when he was saying that? I was trying to find like some tweet I shared that was very similar and appropriate for the cancellation of NCAAs. That's why I was scrolling through my phone there, but I couldn't find it. But it's like he basically, what Jacob just said pretty much is, I felt for these guys when I heard that. It hurt me, because I know what type of work that they put in, and it's everybody. It's the kids I care about, like the Jacobs, both Jacobs, Matt, anybody that was, one of our guys, but especially this Jacob and Grant was in the NCAAs and this stuff. But even for a regular kid that I have no connection to, seniors and stuff, like they put their whole lives on the line for this, and it got ripped out from under them. It was very unfortunate, but the quote I heard was basically saying something like, you gotta love what we were talking about before. You gotta love the journey. Nothing's promised. Stay ready. Nothing's promised. And hopefully through this process, people will realize that, again, nothing's promised, and enjoy what you have. Be grateful, because it could be taken away, right? And like even something as simple as work. Like I love teaching. I love being with my kids, and being home for 4, 5, 6 months was great to spend time with Luca. But, I would complain at work sometimes, not much, but I'd be like, I'm tired. I don't want to be here today, like whatever. But 6 months into a quarantine, I'm like, shoot, I would love to be at work right now. I miss doing what I get to do for a living. And I think, Jacob, would you say that held true with wrestling? Like, you almost made you love it more, maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely rekindled something. I mean, I kind of knew right off the bat. It was like, it took about a week where I was just kind of like down in the dumps. And I was like, this happened. I'm like, I'm talking through it with like my sports psychologist, and like I'm reading, I'm kind of just working through my own thoughts. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm like, hey, at that time, I'm 19 years old. I'm 1 year into eligibility. I have 3 more. And then I've got another year where I want to try to make an Olympic team. And I'm going to compete again. That's 100% guaranteed, is I'm at some point in life, I'm going to compete again. And I'm like, all right, now it's time to get ready for that. I didn't know it was going to be this past weekend until like a month out. But at the time, I was like, I'm going to compete again at some point. So let's just keep going. Let's just keep doing what I'm doing. So I just kept on chucking along.
It was a great mindset to have. Now I want to ask you, and actually, let me add to that with the girls, even the girls and the Greeley kids, right? Our season might be in jeopardy. The girls I coach, we're not sure. Their season already got canceled last year. It might happen again. But stay ready, and that match is going to come. Like Jacob's senior nationals matches came. Like you got to be ready for something. It's coming. Regardless of it, maybe it's not your typical season. It's not your typical state championship. It's not your typical, whatever. Just be ready. And I think Jacob is the perfect example of that. What I wanted to ask you, Jacob, and obviously you guys, NC State might want to keep some of their training secrets to themselves, but how is COVID life at NC State, and how are you, how are you guys navigating it, to the best of what you should say to us?
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of it kind of depends on like the state regulations and stuff like that, like what phase we're in, that stuff. So that plays a part, and then it's the athletic department, what they want to allow, what they don't want to allow. So I want to say maybe I don't know if it was in October or late September, we started practicing again. It was like very set, like one, lifting, you got to wear your mask when you lift. So that's a big thing. And you've got your partner, and they figured out your partners from your pods and your houses. So like kept certain houses together, testing every week. You have one partner for this allotted period of time. And as long as everybody's testing negative, it's okay. Keep it going. Stay out of public places, wear the masks, do all the proper precautions, live a healthy lifestyle, get your sleep, sunlight, diet, all that stuff is pertinent right now. And yeah, I mean, we've been doing pretty well so far. I mean, I've actually been my training partner leading up to senior nationals was RJ. So it's been nice to wrestle with him. He's going to be very good. But yeah, is we're doing well. I mean, still going. So nothing's guaranteed, and we've been shut down once for a week, and tomorrow's not guaranteed. I'm in quarantine for 2 weeks because I competed in Iowa. But it comes with territory. It's the world we live in. I can't control anything, so I'm just going to do what I can. So that's really it. I mean, NC State's we're doing well. We're very, very, very fortunate. As a lot of programs still can't wrestle, but we're making the best of it. Definitely following all protocols, all procedures that they give us, and that's pretty much all we can do.
Love it. D, do you find it interesting that we kind of have, what's that called when we're feeding people to something? Like
A feeder program?
Kind of, I guess. I was thinking of a different word. I don't know. It kind of made me feel stupid there. I don't know. There's another word. I can't think of it. But anyway, Jacob, well, actually, I asked you, Coach DeBellis, how do you think that is with the relationship with Empire and NC State? Because we got Jacob Camacho, we have Jacob Ferreira, we have Matt Grippy, we have AJ Kovacs, and we have RJ Jack all there. And there's a chance that one year that all 5 of those guys could be in the lineup at the same time.
That's half the lineup.
Yeah, I find that to be pretty interesting.
I hope so. I want to come down and watch.
Well, if those 5 are in the lineup, I'm there. Like, I'm dropping everything. I'm going.
That would be awesome. I mean, we're all different weights too, so that's the crazy part.
Yeah. How is that for you though, Jay? I'm curious. Like, is it cool to have the comfortability of having guys from your club on the same team as you, or is it? NC State? Is everybody just NC State now? And it's kind of we're all brothers and it's whatever.
I would say it's all brothers, honestly. I mean, I'm close with pretty much everybody on the team. Like, obviously, we have the people we hang out with more often just because that's who we click with.
Yeah,
but for the most part, it's seamless. I mean, like, everybody cracks on everybody. Jokes get thrown around. We mess around. We hang out. It's always fun traveling. Little stuff like that is what I really, really cherish. Is like the airports and when me and 3 other guys are gambling with like fruit snacks. Like we're playing poker. We're playing poker with fruit snacks. So it's like, oh, I just hit this one on the river. I want them all. They all come to me, and I get the fruit snacks for the weekend. But little stuff like that, that's fun, cool. That we're just kids. But to have those 5 is awesome. I mean, like, I'm super close with Matt. I'm close with Jacob. RJ and AJ are like brothers. We just grew up since we were 5 years old together. So yeah, it's definitely awesome. And like being able
to talk about stuff that other people might not get, like
inside jokes are awesome.
When you guys talk about Eagles, funny stories, like those 4 will, they're right there with you. So I think that's really cool. I love that, D, and I think in D3 we have a similar thing with Johnson and Wales, which I think is interesting. A lot of our better guys that decide to go D3 end up going there. DiNardo, the Albises, Mike Marm, what they're Brady Robin,
Lopez.
Yeah, Justin Lopez is there right now also. Yeah, so I feel like that's interesting. Is there anybody on the team, Jacob, that you like you said, they're all brothers, but like I know you have some superstars on the team like yourself, but like Hayden Hidley's really good. Like, is there anybody that motivates you outside of maybe the coaching staff, like as teammates?
Oh yeah, Hayden, Trent, those guys are. You look at them; they put in 120% every time they step on that mat, and they like. If I'm slacking, I look over, I'm like, I got to pick it up. Like, they know, like, I push them, they push me. It goes hand in hand. Like I say, I look up to Hayden, I look up to Trent, just because they're workhorses. I mean, like I said, what got me to where I was not my being athletic. Like, I can do crazy stuff. I'm flexible. I have these gifts like that were God given. But at the same time, I got to where I was just by being the hardest worker in the room and being the toughest kid in the room. And Hayden and Trent, they're tough and they work hard. So to keep it's literally just playing with fire there. So when I look up to them on the team, definitely. I mean, everybody pushes everybody, but those guys they're special couple of brothers.
They look like they have fun too, and they enjoy it.
They're awesome.
Yeah,
I gotta say, the traveling with them and competing with them was like me, them, and Renan. But I hang out with them a lot on the trip, and they're awesome. Like, they're super fun. Like, as serious as they are and as crazy as they are, they're awesome.
Well, who did Trent beat? He beat somebody really good. I forgot. I was watching his match because it came up. And after
Monster.
one, he raised the roof, and I thought it was hysterical. I was like, what is this guy
Oh,
doing
my
right
gosh,
now?
he did that every single time. And if you look back in that match, he did like an air guitar where he went like that and
Hilarious.
like
I
shook
loved
his
it.
head.
It made me really happy.
Total nut job and
I love
crazy,
it.
but
I
at
love
this
it.
level, you got to be a little crazy.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I only have one more question for him, but if you have another question before we get to like the wrapping up part, you could hit him with it. All right.
Okay.
So my thing for you, Jacob, and I'm kind of curious, and this might be a hard question to answer.
Mhm.
I know your wrestling goals are NCAA champ, Olympic team, all that great stuff, which I think you're fully capable of. I'm curious of where Jacob Camacho sees himself in like 15 years. What do you where do you envision yourself when this whole thing is over and you're kind of an old man like myself or Coach DeBellis? Where do you want to be? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I want to compete till 2024,
Okay.
till 2024 through then. And then I want to be able to leave the sport of wrestling with no regrets, with a smile on my face, knowing I gave everything I had to it. I'm always going to give back to it. But I think after that, like I have this thing where I want to pursue either acting or be just some sort of business thing with fitness and health. So I want to try to act. I mean, I do enjoy it. I like how it when you watch a really great movie and you can really like you can almost like feel what they feel and like you're touched by it. I think that's awesome. So that's the reason I want to act. Yeah, I think it's cool. It's fun. You make a lot of money doing it, but it's also a crazy lifestyle. You get to travel a lot. I love to travel. And then I don't know, maybe when I'm 50 and hopefully I don't have to work anymore and I'm getting older, I'm gonna open my own restaurant. So I've thought down the road. I want to do that stuff. So I don't know. I've got
He's gonna do all these things too. That's the funny thing about it. Like,
yeah,
how old are you, Jacob? 20?
yeah, 20.
I'm 33, so I'm 13 years older. You're 50. All right, 63. I can go over there for dinner. I'll be feeling good.
Yeah,
You're gonna be. I'm gonna have to will you in at 78 or whatever you are. I'll will yourself in there.
Oh man, you can't say that to you.
But that's
Hey,
awesome.
listen, if he's willing to wheel me in, I'll take it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Jacob achieve all that stuff, including the wrestling stuff, but being able to leave the sport, fulfilled, kind of, and then going and doing the rest. But do you have anything before I wrap it up, and then Jacob will have the last words?
Just congratulations on a great career so far, and we're really looking forward to watching you the rest of the way.
Yeah,
Reach
it's
all
gonna be
your
fun.
goals.
Got a good few years going.
Yeah, and for
Yeah,
me,
it's awesome. Inspirational.
same thing. Like,
Inspirational conversation.
oh, awesome. And I knew it would be like this because that's just how Jacob is, and he always helped me, like I said, as a coach and inspired me. But I'm very excited to see how these next, and you get a free year. You have still 4 years of eligibility, if I'm getting it correctly, which is kind of wild that the NCAA. Yeah, because
wait a second. Last year didn't count?
last year counted for his wins. This is a free year. This year
doesn't.
for no one, but you could still compete. So that's why I was
So
saying.
can I go back?
A guy like Yanni could be a 5-time champ.
Can I come back? Can I go back to Oswego?
Yeah, you're gonna have to take it up with the NCAA though.
We gotta make a call.
Well, what's the difference?
I'll make a call tomorrow.
I'm sure we can figure something out.
We'll get you back there. But it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting that Jacob gets 4 more chances. So I think he would have won America this year. So, it's not about pressure. It's not about really at the end of the day, it's not about the outcome. But, if I'm talking about what I think is going to happen, I think Jacob will be a 4-time All-American. I think Jacob's going to be a couple-time national champ, maybe a 4-time national champ. I don't see why not.
Yeah, there's lofty goals. I mean, I want to be a 4-time national champ. I want to be a world champ. And
if you're doing it right, that's what you do.
It just comes down to doing the right things every day. Like I wake up, I just do the right things, and I do the things that put me one step ahead. And I saw this one tweet on Twitter, and like you come across it, some people just scroll through it. They don't really watch it or look at it. And it was 1.00 to the 365th power is 1. 1.01 to 365th power is like 30 point something or like somewhere up in the 30s. And that's just 1% better every single day. You're 37% better or whatever it is at the end of the year. When some people are going up, negatives, blah, 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 blah.
But, do you know a bunch of people just heard you say that, Jacob, and they're like, what the heck, these numbers? Like, and that was me at the Bells.
My brain works a million miles a minute.
I love that it does. But before you, and I'll let you finish it, Jacob, I have last words, but I wanted you to know that we're all extremely proud of you. Coach DeBellis, met you a couple times, but just I'm sure hearing you talk and hearing us talk about you is looking forward to seeing you do some great things. I know for a fact that John is extremely proud of you. I know Khalid's proud of you. I know that past club members are probably you're still talked about often, as is AJ, RJ, Jacob, all the guys that have come through. The legacy never ends, and you just continue to build on it. And super excited. I was so excited to watch you wrestle this past weekend. I'm going to be excited to watch the next time you get on the mat, and it'll be a lot of fun. But Jacob, you can wrap it up, and then we'll end this sucker.
Yeah, no, I thank you guys for having me. I love talking wrestling. I like talking mentality. I like to tell stories, tell jokes. I don't know. I'm just a normal kid. Just want to do a couple unordinary things. But yeah, it was awesome to talk to you guys. Look forward to doing it soon.
I love it, Jacob. Good luck with everything, pal, and we'll talk soon. Stay on for a second. I'm going to stop recording, though.